Right, well, welcome. And I'll call the July 7th meeting of the Environmental Task Force to order. And let's go ahead. And does anyone have anything that they want to add or change with the agenda?
The date is wrong.
Oh, yeah, it's supposed to be the 7th, right?
Yeah. I wonder if that's why you just emphasized the 7th.
Thank you. You know, it's kind of hard when you start the week on a Tuesday.
I know. Throws you off, doesn't
it? Okay. So thank you. We will correct the date that this is the 7th. All right. And all right, then we'll just have a voice vote to adopt the agenda. Everyone in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Any communications or correspondence that anyone wants to? All right. Then we'll go on to, we don't have any presentations, so public comment. Is there anyone that's joining us as the public this evening that wants to make a comment? Pam.
Good afternoon. I would like to make an announcement that Scio Community News is sponsoring a town hall for the trustee candidates on Saturday, September 16th from 10 to noon at Township Hall. And I'm asking for residents to send in their questions. This will be Scio resident driven questions that will be put in a hat, and we'll draw out of the hat for the question. If you have any good questions for the candidates, send it to Scio, Q and A, and is spelled out, at yahoo.com. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, because I think it'd be great if the task force and also the working groups can come up with some questions to definitely pose to the candidates.
That would be great. That would be great.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Okay, so moving on. Well, C's team, want to give us an update? You've been busy.
Yeah, I guess we don't have a whole lot to update other than that, you know, since the last meeting, we've been trying to distribute the survey any way we can. We've done some in-person events. We've reached out to homeowners associations and just tried to get it to as many people as we can. And as of yesterday, we've gotten 100 responses to those. So we're really happy about that, but we still do need to reach out to a lot more people, specifically through homeowners associations. And I guess that's the only real update we have this time, or ask to you guys, is I mean, of course, to help out distributing it, but also we have a list of some homeowners associations that we've either not been able to get in contact with or just can't find a contact for. So after this meeting, I'm just going to maybe send a follow-up with the link to the survey and a list of some of those that we haven't been able to reach out to yet. And if you guys could maybe, if you're part of it, send it out, whether that be like an email list or Facebook or Nextdoor, or if you know people that live there and know they have a way of distributing it, just to get it to them so we could reach as many people as we can. But that's the only update, I think, from us, unless Alicia, you had something else.
No, that was the only update, just that, and that we've been interviewing folks. Me and Kyle interviewed a couple of the folks from TAP last week, and then the rest of the teams are kind of reaching out to other folks relevant to the other working groups other than transportation.
Yeah, Kyle, did you want to mention putting up the posters and the making the cards available at Township Hall?
Oh yeah, so we'll be doing the we'll probably be putting those up before next weekend, but at the very latest they'll be up by I believe the 16th. So we'll have a poster in the town hall along with a bunch of cards that people could take home that has a QR code, a little bit of information for the survey. So that'll be there for the foreseeable future.
Okay, that sounds great. So I think then we're probably going to keep the survey open. You're going to start kind of looking at, who's responded, what the gaps are, and keep the survey open, probably into August, because they're going to be at least through the voting, right? So when people come to Township Hall, they can see the posters and so forth. Is that what the schedule looks like?
Yeah, I think at least through the end of August, we'll have the survey open.
Okay.
So
Okay, cool.
Have you been able to tell the respondents that you've got so far where they heard about the survey?
we haven't looked at any of the responses yet. I think probably towards the end of July, we might take a look at some of what we've gotten. That's a good question. And I don't think we had something included about where they heard about it, whether it was through in person or email or online, but that would be a good thing maybe for us to add, and I could talk to the group about that.
Yeah, and we did, and I want to let people know that not only did we have our survey up, but was it the land preservation group or someone else had a survey too in the township newsletter. So yeah, I have to go back and look and see if it was TAP or land preservation, but one of the groups did have another survey on some of the work that they're doing. So yeah.
Park, recreation, and open space.
Yep.
Yes, I did note that it was in the newsletter, and that was the reason for my question. I thought that would perhaps be a very successful way of reaching people.
Yeah. Okay. So if you could, when Kyle emails that list of HOA contacts, if you know of anyone that lives in those neighborhoods. Also, I'm hoping that everybody in the environmental task force has been able to email, because I think, sometimes it takes 3 points of contact for people to actually take any kind of action. So if you have an email list of your neighbors or any kind of network within Scio, I have to thank my husband, yay, Karen, send it out to his tennis group. But, think about the folks in the emails that you have. And, a gentle reminder, or have you seen the survey? Did you take it? What did you think? Just really, talk about it. Mm-hmm. All right. Good. Then me. Okay, I just wanted the next item was the carbon neutrality resolution update. I wanted to let you know that it did pass unanimously without any additions or edits, and recommending that the trustees adopt it. So now what happens with Planning Commission is after the minutes are approved, which will happen next Monday, then it can be placed on the trustees agenda. So we're hoping that there'll be room on it, in 2 weeks. And I haven't heard any, I let them know it was coming and this is what we're looking at. And I really haven't gotten any feedback. So I'm hoping that, we can be successful in making that resolution a part of, that get it ratified within the township. So that's where the resolution is. And then working groups. I hope everyone will go to the website. We did get a kind of a facelift to the website, which puts the C's team kind of front and center. We didn't get their pictures in the newsletter, so we couldn't be a friendly face, but we did get them on the website. And, along with a link to the the survey too. And the goal would be to continue building the website a little bit so we can have more resources and so forth. So an agenda item for the work groups would be if you could discuss and come back with things that you want to put on the website that you think would be good resources for the township, then we can work at adding some pages to the website. And that will take probably several months to kind of work through and get into the workflow of the folks at the township. But if you could put that on kind of an agenda for your work group, that would be great. So with that, are there some updates from any of the working groups?
I have no updates. I've been out of town and probably moving in another 2 weeks, so just wanted to get caught up and see what was happening.
Okay, well, good luck with the move.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I actually missed our last subgroup meeting, but they managed to carry on without me. I don't know if anybody else wanted to comment on anything. Sounds like from the report, the biggest thing was a discussion about the composting training. But I note that Jan sent an email out about that. So if anybody's interested, they can sign up for it, which Jeff and I have done, by the way.
Woohoo! All right, you're going to be master composters.
Some of us are
Well,
composters.
Master, we're going to at least do composting anyway.
We're gonna be community composters.
That'd be cool. And has anyone heard I heard, and I don't even remember where I heard, but there's some talk about with the Wren's farm property, putting some sort of community composting on that location. Has anyone heard anything about that or?
Yes, I have, Jan.
Okay, great.
The Mayor's Green Fair, I ran into Joe at UMA, who is a member of Project Grow. And he said Project Grow is trying to establish a community composting facility there on the Wren's property. All very preliminary, of course, but that is their objective.
Mm-hmm. Do you, perhaps, would you be willing to follow up with that and see if there's anything that we could do to help support that in any way?
Yes, I did tell him that I would be bringing this to the group. I brought it to the M&W group, and now we're talking about it here. I told him I'd get back to him. So I will do that.
Okay, great.
I also wanted to say, we on the Transportation Committee have been working on maybe the idea of increasing the requirements for new site plans in terms of providing bicycle parking. And we're just at this point, we're just at the point of investigating what other cities are doing and then trying to contact, what's the word I want? Parties of interest, shall we say. I've already had a long talk with Roy on TAP committee, for example, to see thoughts on it. We're talking things like providing plenty of parking in places where there's multifamily housing, for example. If you've ever lived in an apartment and tried to wrangle a bike around, you know, it can be difficult. And considering the idea, some cities require that you have enclosed parking available for bikes if you have multifamily housing. It's lockable, it's secure. So we're just looking into those possibilities right now. So it's just kind of in the investigative phase.
Kathy, EV chargers at rental housing is very important too.
Yes, we already have that in our recommendations. We're just waiting to hear from the ordinance committee, you know, that's writing the ordinances to get some, so we can put our input, give our input to them. But yes, definitely.
Yeah, Bob, hi, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I did. Kathy, I saw in the minutes of the last meeting that we'll be reviewing later, that your group was thinking of encouraging electric bike use. And I wondered, is there a charger for bikes, or or do you just need an outlet? And would we want to put the outlets near where the bike racks are? It might encourage it more if
Good
people
idea.
thought they could get home.
Yeah, from what I've been told, and honestly, all I've investigated on that is talking to someone who's interested in the subject, and he told me that, and he's no real expert or anything, but he said his understanding is typically it's the kind of thing like a cell phone kind of thing that you can take a little thing off the bike and you can carry it in and plug it into a wall and charge
Oh,
it
you
that
take
way.
your battery in?
You can, yes,
Ah,
most of them. So I'd have to investigate a little bit further, but yeah, we want to
okay,
look at those kinds of things.
okay, great, thanks.
And also the possibility, one of the other possibilities was thinking about bike parking near the new bus shelters, so that you can combine ways of getting around, park your bike and hop on the bus. So just investigating.
Yeah, that would be a good, we need to get that to the DDA because they are currently in the process of, installing some bike or bus shelters. So
Yeah.
actually, I need to write that down because that's a biggie.
I have an email in to Bob Stites asking
Oh,
him
good.
to call. So, I wanted to bounce that one off him. So,
Okay, all right, great. All right. I also wanted to just draw some attention. I sent out the presentation that a summary of the building stock analysis that the 2030 interns did for Scio Township. And I just want to stress that what it really tells us is that that we're really single family housing dominated. And so the policies and some of the recommendations that we make really need to deal with the single family housing piece. So that would be things like the solarized program, dealing with EV EV access, information on EV, looking at transportation corridors, alternative transportation, because it's all about reducing the greenhouse gas emissions of our transportation, because it's mostly commuting, right? And using cars, and then also the efficiency and renewable energy of our houses. So those are really, if we're going to make an impact, sorry about the kitchen cleanup if you hear the garbage disposal, but that's really, if we're going to make an impact that's reaching those, that whole group is important, which is really different from cities where multifamily housing or some other square footages would be where you want to make the biggest impact. So we're really dealing with a lot of single family homes and the transportation and connectivity within the township. So I think those are the kind of conclusions from that building stock analysis. Okay, Karen, do you want to announce your new job? Because I think that's really kind of important to this group.
Hi, yeah, I just started a job a month ago. I'm actually a quality assurance inspector. We're working with DTE. They have a big incentive or rebate program going on for small businesses, large businesses, and also single family homes and multifamily homes. Yeah, so I go to businesses and make sure I see what they want to replace. And then I also, after the work is done, I go and inspect and make sure they did install what they planned on doing. There's a whole team of people who do outreach for businesses. And even homes as well. They'll go to neighborhoods and do an energy audit and basically dish out bulbs and shower. And they do all kinds of tests to see, they do them blowing air through your door and making sure they can give you a list of things to do. And for small and large businesses, I've done mostly lights, but I've also done new buildings where they have a green roof. I just did the KLA building off of Green Road. I can't remember now, but they have a green roof, a white roof, all new. Everything's new. It's a new building, but they have tinted windows. Now I can't remember. HVAC, everything is energy efficient in that building. It's beautiful. But yeah, that's something I brought up to Jan. Maybe for some of the Scio businesses, we might let them know about the DT incentives. I've seen rebates anywhere from a few $100s to thousands of dollars. So, yeah.
Well, that's great. And I think Karen's going to connect us a little bit more with the outreach team, and we can do some brainstorming on how to really try and reach more Scio residents, because it's, the whole gamut from the single family housing, et cetera. So I think that's really great. And I also wanted to say that the Scio Township Hall, we did get, I think about the total grant amount is, total project amount is $31,000. And we got all but $6,000 in grants, both from the 2030 district and from Eagle. There have been 114 fixtures replaced so far, and the rest of them are going to be lamps, just the bulbs. And also, so that's going to be done by the end of July. We also have retro commissioning and of the existing HVAC units and controls, and then a plan will be developed for the replacement of the 1999 rooftop units that will also look at options for electrifying. So and all of that, except for $6,000, is covered by grant funding, which is really cool. And we're not sure exactly what the rebate's going to be. It'll be probably somewhere between $500 and $800 for that work. So a little bit back from DTE. Also, I think the fire station is going to go out with an RFP for some ground mounted solar that will cover about 100% of their electrical use. And that funding has, I believe, been approved by the trustees. So some operational movement with the buildings that Scio has. So, all right. Let's see a couple of chat things. All right, so that's great. And anyone else? Oh, yeah, we got a chat. Might be an idea to get Scio to put the survey thing on a banner. And yeah, we can request that. And I think that would be a good way to actually, thank you, Rob, to reinforce that. That request will go to Mary Gillis. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then the other thing, let's see, we talked a little bit about the trying to get some website resources from each of the work groups. I'd also like to send out, I think it would be good, let's see, Pam Boyd talked about next Saturday, the 10 to 12 kind of session with the folks that are running for the trustee position. And I would like each of the work groups, if there can be some, maybe, email among yourselves. I'll send out a kind of a follow-up email as well, and to, construct a few questions. I know I'm going to be there, and the other thing that we'll do, there's a small kind of sitting area outside the meeting room, and that's one of the places that we're going to have our poster and some of the cards, so people who may not have read their newsletter, or it's just another touch to remind them to take the survey. But also, I think making sure that we that each candidate, hopefully, if enough people send in some questions about, energy, carbon neutrality, all of this transportation. Obviously, we want trustees that are going to support the work that we're doing and the goals. And one of the questions could even be about, supporting since we don't have the resolution passed yet, what their views are on setting a goal that would be in alignment with Washtenaw County as far as carbon neutrality. So, so two kind of things for the working groups to do. One is to come up with some questions, and I'll send up a follow-up email, because I think there are some topics that, might be conversation starters for the groups, and then come up with some resources that you want to put up on the website. And like I said, it may take a while to get some of those things up on a website, but if we know of resources that would be helpful for people, and then we can follow up with the September newsletter, having those resources up and pointing people to those resources. So that's kind of the game plan there. Okay, let's see. Any other working group folks have anything else they'd like to cover? All right, did everyone hear the announcement that the Ann Arbor Public Schools signed a 20-year agreement with My Green Power at what will be a savings overall? So that's a pretty interesting development from, I think it's the first school district to sign up with My Green Power for their renewables. And they're still going to be adding their own renewables on some of the roofs, because as they electrify, and to do more offsets with their gas. So that's kind of cool. All right. Anything else? All right, then we'll go ahead and see if there's any more public comment, and then we have approval of the minutes and announcements. Any other members of the public that would like to make any comments? Please raise your hand. Okay. Seeing none, then there's a link in the agenda for the minutes, and I think Kathy also sent out a link. Are there any additions, corrections to the minutes? Okay, seeing none, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
So moved.
Motioned.
Okay, moved by Gerd. Support?
Support.
Support from Bob Hyde. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, then the minutes are approved as submitted. All right, any other announcements? Okay, I just have one, and that would be July 15th, which is a Friday night. There's going to be an Electrification Expo at the Farmers Market in Ann Arbor. A great place to get, I mean, I think they're going to go from, HVAC systems to, induction cooking. They have a whole range of vendors that they're going to have. So it might be a great place to get some resources and to learn a little bit more about electrification on all levels, including lawn equipment, I think. So it'd be a good place to check out some good stuff.
Jan, do we have any goals on how many respondents we would like to see on our survey percentage wise?
Well, considering we have 17,000 residents.
Well, I remember we had a very poor response to our master plan. I can't remember how many responded. It was
Yeah, the
poor.
survey, I believe, was under 150, if I remember right. So, we did get a report on another survey that was sent out earlier, but I haven't thought about goals. C's team, have you thought about any goals of what would be? I mean, part of it is representation, but I don't know. Thoughts?
I guess, at least I haven't thought of, or I don't think anybody in our group has come up with a concrete number, I guess, that we're trying to hit. At this point, we're really still just trying to get in touch with as many people as we can to get it out. I would say that once we take a look roughly at the responses we've got probably towards the end of this month, maybe we'll have a better idea of realistically how many we think we'll get, and what demographics or areas that we've missed out, and then how we reach out to those people. But in terms of a concrete number, I don't think we've really come up with one.
Kyle, would it be possible to get an interim report back to us on a number? Seems like if we wait another month before we get a report, it might be a little bit long.
Well, we know we have 100 right now, right? And the newsletter just went out, right? Okay.
Maybe in a couple of weeks, if we could hear back just to see how we're doing.
Yeah, no, that we could do that. I mean, we keep an eye on the response.
And those of you that sent out emails, I would do follow-up emails to your networks too, because it isn't, people aren't going to do it once, if they get one email, but they might do it if they get a reminder. So, yeah, Bob?
Pam, are you still on? Well, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay. I had a question, Janet, and it may be that it's not legal, but is there any way to put some information in front of the voters as they come to the different sites? And, they're the activists. They're out there putting themselves out.
I think we talked about maybe tabling or you can't respect the distance, even though we're not dealing with
the election.
The election, but still respect. I think we had targeted definitely WISD as one. We had talked about being there.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good strategy. Yeah, and posters with the QR code are going to be up at Township Hall, one next to where you drop off your ballot, one inside, and then one just outside. We'll have some cards inside the meeting room, but then where you sit outside the meeting room, a poster and some cards too. So those will be up before next Saturday.
Jan, would election rules allow you to have a presence outside of a polling place?
That's what we talked about, having people, outside. And I don't know if, I mean, that's a long day, right? And ISD has 3 precincts we had talked about some, I don't know if there are some volunteers here that would be willing to, you know, a lot of people vote early in the morning and, you know, then after work or something like that, if there might be some people that would be willing to, you know, we have the cards printed, you know, with the QR codes and so forth, to hand out to people. But I think we have to respect, I don't want to get into anybody, you know, being upset that, you know, I think it's what, 100 or 150 feet or whatever from the voting places. I wouldn't want to, you know, test the waters that way of being closer than that. But yeah, so maybe I could say, you know, we can, okay, C's team, let's do this. Let's go ahead and we can email the group of what the plan is on August 2nd. And then and recruit some folks if they'd be willing, you know, either early morning, late afternoon, or noontime or whatever to, you know, be able to volunteer to hand out some cards or whatever for the QR code. Mhm.
And this question is for Pam Boyd. Pam, you're doing
Yes.
a great job with your newsletter. Is it possible for you to maybe highlight our survey to newsletter readers?
Sure. In fact, I just emailed you, Jan, and asked you about the expo at Farmers Market. If you want to send me something about the survey that I can put in next week's newsletter, I'm happy to do that. It would go under the section of, you know, the news for our neighborhood, news for, yeah. So definitely, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, if you Google Ann Arbor Electrification Expo, they actually have quite a bit of, they have some information. They're trying to get people to register for it. I don't know why, because they want your email. But you know, they have some information definitely on that on their website. Actually, I can probably, hang on just a second. I can put it in the chat. And they have it on Eventbrite. Yeah, it's July 15th.
Okay, thank you, Jan.
Yep. Yeah, because I think that's a really good resource. Definitely. Okay. And I will send you the information on the survey too. Great. All right. Anyone else? Any other ideas on outreach? Dana, I saw that you did respond a little bit about the farmers. We're trying to, you know, figure out how to, you know, contact those. Kathy, you had your hand up.
Yeah, it was actually about something about farms. I get emails and postings from Slow Food, Washtenaw County. I don't know if anyone follows that particularly, but I noticed that they are having this summer, every week or two, they're having tours of various farms that are doing some regenerative practices, and you can sign up in advance for them. Would you like me to dig that up and send you a copy, and maybe we can pass it around? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be great, because one of the things it would do is identify some of those too. And
Right.
I think I went out to Blue Springs Farm, which is out
Stein Road.
Stein, yeah. And I think they're just inside Scio, and they're doing CSAs and so forth.
Right.
Yeah. Mhm.
Jan, I did a drive-by inventory, drove the entire township and just kind of looked at, you know, I was doing it for agricultural purposes, but it gave me the opportunity to look at our township in general. And I have to say, I came away very impressed. We've got a beautiful township. And I also was impacted by how, I guess probably our subdivision control act has impacted the character of our township and how it's been developed. It's really in contrast to current thinking. If you look at what Ann Arbor wants to do on West Stadium and the higher densities and so forth, our township's been developed in a very low density mode in the vast majority, geographically speaking. We've eaten up a lot of property in residential development. One of the good parts about that, though, is I see a lot of open space that's reverting to nature. You know, a lot of these larger parcels, 2.5 to 10 acre residential parcels, you know, people are not utilizing that acreage, and they're pretty much letting it revert back to nature. So maybe that's one of the pluses of that subdivision control. But I don't know. I just when I looked at it, and I look at our A1 zoning now on a minimum lot acreage of 2.5, I have conflicting opinions as to whether that is a wise use of our property.
Just to add on to that, one of the things, you know, and obviously there's some state regulations around what you can do and what you can't do, but we do have, in addition to that 2.5 acre minimum, we do have an open space incentive, which actually works with folks, rather than dividing things up into 2.5 acre parcels, promotes having dedicated open space and clustering the residences when they're being developed. I think the other planning issue comes around density, and obviously the more restrictive your density, you know, the larger your density is, the higher the housing costs are, which are which our average housing cost, I think in Scio is like 450,000, and rising rapidly. And so what the Planning Commission is looking at, and you know, if any of you are interested, we're going to have a discussion of updating our PUD ordinance on next Monday. It's on the agenda. There are a couple public hearings, so it's not going to be a short meeting, but and part of the PUD ordinance is, PUD is a zoning where it's about the only zoning that you have discretion as a planning commission member, or as a planning commission. If it's a by right zoning, you can, you know, say we'd like to see this, or, you know, have you looked at that, or whatever. But basically they can do, if it meets the zoning ordinance, you don't have a lot of discretion. PUD have a lot of discretion, and there are some incentives that you can put in. And one of the things we're looking at are the incentives that would be around net zero ready, all electric. These are some of the levers that we can add to PUDs. Now, the downside of making them the incentives too hard to do is then developers won't use PUDs and you have no discretion. So there's a kind of a balancing act there. So it'll be an interesting discussion. And part of that is also what are those incentives? Because they're almost always density incentives. So there's discussion about, do we not have any PUDs anymore and just rely on the open space ordinance for agricultural zoning, or, you know, so forth. So it's going to be a real interesting discussion. We won't be taking any action on it. It's just to really get a discussion on that particular lever that the Planning Commission has. But it's about the only lever you've got. And then, so that's one of the changes. And then I think one of the next priorities is the EV ordinance. And so far, most developers have been agreeable to, add EV charging. I don't think it's at the level that we really need it, but at least they've been agreeing to add it to their developments, which I think goes to show that I think people see that as a real important infrastructure piece moving forward.
And Jan, zoning for solar.
Mhm.
No, that's something that has to be addressed. What do you think the best timing on that
actually-
is in view of the fact that we seem to have quite a bit of interest?
Yeah,
Solar
and there
moving forward.
really aren't any restrictions on solar other than the typical setback restrictions for any accessory structure. So the issue would be whether or not we want to treat solar differently from an accessory structure on a piece of property, which would say that you could put solar in a setback, and that dealing with ground mounted solar. Yeah, so that's one of the issues. It's from a zoning stone, that's the only restriction that we have, other than I don't know how many, if there are any HOAs that restrict solar. You have to get approval from your HOA to do something like that typically. So it might be investigating and seeing if the HOAs have any restrictions.
Thank you.
I should bring up the other one is with farming, because right now when you conserve your land, there's a restriction around where you can build and what you can build. So right now, the land conservation funding and so forth that's out there is in conflict with using any of those agricultural lands for solar. And I know the U of M solar farm is looking at, it's called agricultural PV, and they're going to be doing some research on what are the best ways of, if you will, cohabitating between agriculture and solar. So I think that, from a land planning standpoint, I think that's interesting because most of the deals that are done with the conservation easements are not just Scio only, but it's pulling dollars from other land conservancies and so forth. And so Barry Lonick would be a good resource for us to really look at what can we do and how do we loosen those, because those are basically funding restrictions, and it's not all in the township's control.
Yeah, as I indicated in my previous memo, coordination with the Land Preservation Committee is important, I think,
Mhm.
on the agriculture.
Yeah, because there is a lot of discussion about and we really don't have a way of estimating what our actual greenhouse gas emissions are and our energy use as a township, because DTE doesn't provide that information. I think I mentioned this last time, is Washtenaw County you can get it, I believe, by zip code. And so I noticed that there were some recommendations that were going to the MPSC to require the utilities to be able to do it by, and I think I asked for census tracts because those align more with township boundaries. And so that would give us better data on, say, if we needed to have a renewable target for how much renewable energy to support the township as a whole, we could get that data, but right now we really can't. It isn't available in that granularity. Okay. Now we got into lots of topics tonight. That's good. All right. Anything else? All right. So working groups are going to come up with some questions, and those questions I'll include that in the email. I think Pam talked about where you email those questions to, and I know I'm planning on being there on Saturday, and I could encourage as many of the task force members to be there at the Township Hall from 10 to 12 on the 16th, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday. So anything else? Great. And I want to say thank you again, C's team, because I honestly have to say, doing the research to find out all the HOAs and trying to connect with folks, really appreciate that. And they have a really fun graphic, the poster that's going to go up at Township Hall is very fun. I think people will notice it. So I have great hope that, gosh, I'd love to see, Dana, you said how many, if we got 500 responses, I would be jumping up and down. I really would. I think that would be great.
Yeah, I think so. We have a little bet going on a couple of the agricultural people I've talked about. It's what the over under will be on responses.
Oh.
It's not very high.
Yeah, well, hey, we'll keep pushing, right? And thank you, everyone, for using your networks and continuing to, the more you talk about it, right? However you talk about it, carbon neutrality, recycling, all of these things. I keep getting reminded at how steep that curve is, that of the reductions that we need to make, and the next 10 years are going to make or break the effect on us globally. So we've got 10 years to really make a big dent in this, and let's go. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, enjoy the rest of the evening.
Okay, goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.